because I can, as a parent, reassure him that I'm not going anywhere. He now attends youth, so he has become more outgoing and has a relationship with God. My daughter is now a mother of a little boy. She's still very much self-absorbed, but I'm hoping with lots of prayer and influence from being a mother, this will change her ways. I've done a lot of praying to get through the guilt and shame. I've done a Bible study through NLPM, which deals with guilt and shame. I also learned from the studies from Life Prison Ministries that God forgives me and He loves me unconditionally. My relationship with God is strong, and I know that with Him on my side, I will be the best mom I can be. But I can honestly say that even after being released and with my children on Mother's Day, I still have a hard time. Because I've lost a mother twice in my life. My mother when I was 3, and my grandmother when I was 26. But I can say that I enjoyed this Mother's Day a little bit more because of one little man, and his name is David, and he calls me Grandma. So in closing, I would like to say, mothers and children, love each other like you're going to leave them. Because you never know when Mother's Day will be full of rejoicing.
If I know how, I guess it's already. Okay. Well, good morning. My name is Linda Jacklin. Actually, when I was a very young little girl, this is the church that my parents attended, so it still feels like it's coming home to me. I don't know if you realize it, but this is the end, or was going to be the end of our 24/7 prayer in Woodstock today. And by the way, your pastor was one of 6 that were out last week. I don't know how many pastors we have in Woodstock, but more than 6. And yours was one that was out that 24/7 prayer. Amazing. So, I'm not really sure where all this started from. When I was a very little girl, my parents took me to Burwash Penitentiary, which I realize is unusual, but I had 2 uncles that were guards there. So in Burwash, the guards lived inside the compound. And so I got to spend 2 or 3 summers there, which is not the best thing to do for children. But the thing that scared me was in Burwash, and it was for very serious offenses, that 3 times a day they would ring this bell and a siren would go off and we'd have to get off the streets. And then they would march the offenders by gunpoint from one building to another. Well, they had the wheels. And we would have to run in the houses and stay in. And we were kids, and I was very rebellious and rarely did as I was supposed to. And I was actually, the only reason that I'm not in prison is because I didn't get caught. And I'm so thankful to God that I went through the things in my life that I did, because I would not be where I am today, and I absolutely love this ministry. During a leadership conference in London a few years ago, I heard a pastor say, if you ever get to the point where you say, Lord, break my heart for what breaks yours, you'll know that you're in the ministry that you're supposed to be. And I was really not going to say that prayer, because I don't like crying, but I found out that when I did say that, Lord, break my heart for what breaks yours, all I did was cry. Because it is heartbreaking to see what's happening in our society. New Life Prison Ministries is I'm just going to, that's the thing. We offer hope and direction to those impacted through the criminal justice system by presenting good news of Jesus Christ through Bible correspondence studies, prison chapel services, visitation, video showings, and aftercare support. Part of aftercare support, well, I'm going to talk about the ARC in a few minutes. We are now in 103 institutions in Canada. 103, and there's 140. As we get bigger, we need more and more volunteers. We do these correspondence courses. I want to tell you something exciting that's happened in Woodstock. We just opened, I guess we're calling it a satellite or something. So at Huron Park, we get together now once a week on Monday afternoons from 11 to 4, and we do correspondence courses. So as people are in prison, they do the courses, they fill out the exam, they send it in. There's someone that corrects it, and then it's given to an instructor. And the instructor reads what the inmate has said, we answer little things, and we write a letter back. This is so personal, you would never believe what happens in all of this. In Woodstock, in 5 weeks, we have done over 300 correspondence courses. And we desperately need more volunteers. So if you have it in your heart that you would like to get involved in this, please contact me or Rosemary. She would come down and teach you, and you'd be more than welcome to come here to Heron Park and do it all together on Monday afternoon, or we could work it out with you doing it right here in your church. That's entirely. So, last year, 88 people gave their lives to Jesus Christ in prisons. That's amazing. This year, in Woodstock, in those 4 or 5 Mondays that we have done, we've had 19 people accept the Lord. 19 people to be part of, and it's obviously got nothing to do with us. It's got everything to do with God, because they fill it out, they read this by themselves. They get a hold of the Bible and they read it. This is God talking to them. This isn't us teaching them. This is the Holy Spirit teaching them. It's just so exciting to see what God is doing. So New Life Prison Ministries began in 1980 at Elgin Middlesex Detention Center in London. And a man and his wife went in there and started showing videos, started doing Bible courses, and they never dreamt. Well, the men and women said they weren't getting enough, so they kept taking more in. This was all their own money. They kept taking more in and more in. And they never thought about what it was going to be like when that person got out of Elgin Middlesex and was sent to their home prison. What's going to happen then? They took the courses with them. So all of a sudden they knew, well, we have to do something. This can't go on. That's how New Life Prison Ministries began. And hundreds are saved. Volunteering has been one of the most amazing things I think I've ever done. I love being part of the team that goes, we go into maximum security. And that is one of the scariest things I ever did. I went into my second time, I think it was, with someone was supposed to be going with me and couldn't. So I do chaplaincy. So you go into maximum security, and the women don't get along. You wouldn't know that, right? That would not be why they're in prison. But they don't get along. So only 4 or 5 of them can be together at once. So they'll bring women into a room, a glassed-in room, and you sit and you do chaplaincy with them. It's wonderful. But one of the women that was in there said, my second time now, I'm still very nervous. I couldn't find my way down. I'm asking a guard to show me what I'm doing. They give you what is it called, Rosemary? Private personal alarm. And you set it off if you touch it wrong, which I did the very first time. When you set it off, everybody comes, the guards come, the lockdown comes, everything comes. And I feel like an idiot, and that's the way I started. And so as I'm sitting then in this room, one of the ladies says to me, we're talking about forgiveness, she says, boy, I'm glad God forgives us more than once, because if he hadn't have, I wouldn't have been forgiven for killing that volunteer. Now, trust me, I don't want to be there anymore. But it's the most amazing thing ever. So I'm not even going by the slides anymore, I don't know what we're doing. But I got a phone call, I have to tell you this because it's all about mothers. I got a phone call, never happens, from Elgin Middlesex Detention Center. I don't even know who called me, I was so shocked. Maybe a social worker or something. But anyway, she called me and said, would you talk to one of the prisoners here? I'm thinking, prisoners don't, like I'm nobody. I don't even know how they got my phone number. And I said, sure. And she said, this woman is pregnant and she's going to have her baby within the next few weeks. I'm thinking, okay, well maybe she needs, I don't know what she needs help for, but we talked and I found out that she could have been out. She was only inside because there was no place for her to get out and have her child. It was a safe place. She needed to be in a maternity home or a safe home. Well, I talked to Rosemary on the phone and she said, well, we can't leave her there because if she has her baby when she's in prison, it's going to be taken from her. So we got to do something to get this lady in, which God in all his wisdom does. Right? And we were in the courthouse in Woodstock. She was allowed to leave because we found her a place in Kitchener to stay. This is the wonderful part of the story. She has been out 14 months. She had her baby. She's a wonderful mother. She has full custody of her child. And she got joint custody of a second child that she had that was 7 years old. It is such a miracle. She accepted Jesus Christ as her Savior. She's going to Hearing Park. She's raising her kids to love and honor the Lord. That's exciting. And that's a mother that had a chance. 2 weeks ago, I'm in Grand Valley, and we're doing a program called Dismiss. I'm going to tell you about Dismiss in a minute, but this is in minimum security. There's a baby there, 2 months old. I'm thinking, I don't know, babies in prison, I don't know about that. It's better than having them not there, but it's scary. It's a scary thought. But this mother is so excited that she's got her baby there. I don't even know how long she can keep it, or if she's getting out, but can you imagine? She has her baby. There's another lady there that has lost her child. What's today going to be like for them? It's going to be terrible. The women that are crying for their children, and the one or two that have them. There's nothing quite like understanding what it's like to be so alone. If you've lost a parent, if you've lost your mother already, you know what that must be like. As an adult, it's not fun. I lost my mother a couple of years ago, and I still really struggle with this. So I can't imagine what it would be like to be in prison and not be able to have your children. So I'm going to tell you about Dismiss. Dismiss is an organization. New Life Prison Ministries has taken this on as what we do. It's not our ministry, but we are allowed to use it. So I'm going to tell you where we have these meetings before I start. Brampton, Cambridge, Tillsonburg, London, Toronto, Woodstock, and there's more. Brantford. Who is it? Sarnia just started. Tillsonburg just started this past month, and it was really exciting to do that. So we get together, whoever wants to come, ex-offenders, it's by invitation only. We get together, we play some games, we sing some songs, we have a full course meal. I was praying, Lord, I just, once a month for a full course meal is good, but we just want coffee the second time a month, because it's too much work, right? But God gives us food every 2 weeks. It comes, whether we want it or not, it comes whether I want it or not. Everybody else wants it, I just don't want all the food. God provides it every 2 weeks, we do this. So we get together and we have a devotion and we talk about things. And what would we be talking about today? If you could say to someone today, if you could change something in your life when you were a teenager that would make a difference today, do you know what it would be? Because I for sure know it would be. I would have gotten away from the crowd that I was with and maybe lived for the Lord where I should have longer. I don't know. But I found it very difficult in Woodstock. I was also a drug addict. And I wasn't arrested. But every time I go to that prison and I meet women that are doing a long time in prison, I think, wow, Lord, I didn't do this and I feel so guilty. One of the prisoners said to me, you don't need to feel guilty for what you've done before. You were in your own prison, you just weren't in this one. And that is absolutely the truth. I was in my own prison. So, there's two things I'd really like to tell you about. One is the courses that we really would desperately need volunteers for. And it isn't something that's for everyone. You have to have a passion for it, because unless you really want to, it only takes about half an hour to look after one student. But unless you really are going to be committed, there's no point, because we want you to stay with the student for as long as they are in prison. And after they get out, all of the courses are free of charge. So after they get out, we continue on with the relationship. That's what Dismiss is all about. When they get out, we've got a place to come, to Dismiss. Because without this, they're going to re-offend. They're not in community then. When they get out of prison, they have no health card, no driver's license. They won't be hired because they're going to check to find out if they got a criminal record. You know, you can't rent an apartment if there are 2 people with a criminal record in Woodstock. We're having problems here. We're short 450 places for people to live, and there are all kinds of ex-offenders that are living on the streets because of this. Are they going to re-offend? If we don't do something, they're going to re-offend. But with community, we have 20 people in Woodstock that get together every 2 weeks, and we are a family that's amazing. They will call me at any time and say, this is what's happened, will you have prayer with me, or I need a ride someplace, or will you take me to the police station, and it goes on and on and on and on. And without God, couldn't do any of this. So that was the one thing is the correspondence course, and the other thing is the art. I don't know if you can find a picture of the ark on there. Dylan. This is Goshen Farms. We have a young man in our dismiss group who went to Goshen Farms. You can keep going with that. He accepted Christ in prison. He was in prison 15 years. He accepted Jesus Christ as his Savior. He got out. He was doing drugs. He called me one day, texted me and said, I need help. I got to his house and he said, I need to go to detox and I need to go right now. And I'm naive and I didn't know anything and I was new. And I just called detox in London and they said, yeah, bring him down by 4 o'clock. I didn't know that that doesn't happen. There's channels you have to go through, but it didn't. God didn't have that happen. So he went to detox, got back out again. Then he went in for a full month's program. He got back out. He knew it wasn't enough. And he ended up at Goshen Farms, Goshen Renewal Ministries. He spent 10 months there. It's like Teen Challenge. He just got out about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He was at that 24-hour prayer room most of the time since it's been open. He is on fire for Jesus Christ. He is so excited about being an ex-offender. This is where he was baptized. I went to his baptism. Not only was he baptized, but his nephew was baptized. This man is going into full-time ministry. And this all started through reading books, through doing studies of New York prison ministry. So the ARC. The ARC is a program. It's called Audible Recordings for Christ. There are 240 hours, I believe, on the ARC of people preaching. There is Celebrate Recovery, Alpha. I do have it here if I could find it. Many, many things on there, but one of the really amazing things is there's soft music, there's reading the Bible. There was another ministry that had one of these devices that went inside the prisons, but there was some kind of a little chip and they could take it out and use it for other things. So now we are the one and only to go into prisons. There's our ARC. This costs $20 a piece, and we are so, like it should cost way more, but we are so blessed with what happened. There's all kinds of testimonies on there as well. And one of the testimonies on there is Jeff, the young man that I just told you about. So this device, we have, how many prisons, how many have been asked for, do you know? Come tell us.
I decided to,
Here, do this.
I decided to call prisons up and just say, I'll take I had no money for them, just so you know, I had no money for these ARCs. We produced it for, I think it cost us $150. Everything was given to us for free. The recording studios, everything, I learned how to edit. So I started calling prisons just to see what they would like. I called 9 prisons, got orders for over 1,100. So I stopped calling prisons. I have the money. But these will be out in the next 6 weeks to 8 weeks and be available to inmates inside to be able to listen to the studies. Charles Price, Rick Warren, he was amazed at Promise Keepers, all the people that allowed us to take their recordings and put it on this device.
So I just want to thank you for having us here. God is really alive and working in Woodstock, and having 2 dismiss groups is amazing. And so if you know anybody that's in trouble, that needs or has ever been in prison, or someone that would like to volunteer, please contact me. Our cards are out there. Contact Rosemary. When Jeff was baptized, I just want to mention this. Jeff's nephew, Dallas, made a profession for Jesus. The day that Jeff was baptized, instead of there being 6 people that were baptized, there were 11. Dallas wanted no part of God a year ago. And at the 24/7 prayer time of town, I was listening to him. He was preaching to our mayor, Trevor Burge. I thought, amazing, a year ago Dallas wanted no part of God, and now he's talking to Trevor about what does it mean to go ahead of God. Isn't it amazing? He's a 16-year-old boy, and just like that, God changed his life. I know we're Baptists, but shouldn't we say amen to that? Thank you so much for having us here, and please get in touch with us. Come to the table, look and see what we have. I appreciate you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Yes, we're really thankful for this day in which we can celebrate moms. I'd like to celebrate women on this day, especially women in ministry. And just a few weeks ago, Linda Jacqueline dropped by, and she's an aftercare support worker with New Life Prison Ministry and runs a really important ministry called Dismiss. She's going to share a little bit about that. But as we got talking, she said to me, and she's very bold, Linda is. She goes to Huron Park Baptist Church, and she says, Robin, it'd be so nice if some Sunday we could just share about this ministry and what God is doing. I said, well, how about Mother's Day? And she was very surprised, phoned her director, Rosemary, and Rosemary was free that Sunday, and we're just excited to have them here. And then Stephanie Hewitson is one of the board members. She's going to share her testimony. And so I'm just really glad about this morning. It's a different Mother's Day for me, as some of you know. And I know some of you, it's different for you as well. And we remember our mothers. We remember significant women in our lives who ministered to us over the years. And one of the things I love to celebrate is the women that are in ministry and just doing great things for God. And so this morning, Rosemary Redshaw is the administrative director at New Life Prison Ministry. Rosemary was a prison chaplain for 27 years, and of that time, 17 years was spent at Grand Valley Federal Correctional Facility for women in the Kitchener-Waterloo area. And then Linda is an aftercare support worker with New Life Prison, and then Stephanie is going to come, I think, kind of during the presentation that Rosemary has this morning. But we're so glad that they're all here, and I know that we're going to be blessed and challenged at the same time as they share it today. So let's just welcome them, and Rosemary, would you come and lead us?
Thank you so much for having us here this morning. It is kind of an interesting morning to be able to speak. I know we've spoken on the New Life Prison Ministry at Mother's Day before, but there is so much to share about women and women in prison. And when I think of women in prison, I certainly do think of strong women. Today's a very sensitive day at best, and there's a lot of feelings of guilt and shame and not measuring up as mothers. And then we have that additional focus today to talk about mothers in custody, which is probably a very interesting twist. I don't think any church has been that brave to go down that route before. You know, as a chaplain, I was asked more than once, what day is the most difficult day in the year for people in prison, especially women? And always when I answered, people were shocked, because I wouldn't say Thanksgiving, and I wouldn't say their birthday. I wouldn't even say their child's birthday or Christmas. The most difficult day in prison for women is Mother's Day. Today is it. If you're going to remember women in prison any day of the year, shoot up a prayer for them today, because this is the most difficult day of all. Today there are approximately 2,300 women across Canada who are in prison, and 2/3 of them are moms. And they had at least one child under the age of 16 when they were charged with their offense. So it's a very difficult day of the year. And I am fully aware that there are thousands more women who are not in prison who are also facing the most difficult day of the year. One woman wrote, a woman who was in custody, for me, the biggest problem with being a mother in prison is that I can't care for my children. You can write them, and maybe you can talk on the phone to them, but you can't make decisions for them. You are stripped of it. You are not a mother in prison. Yet most of those mothers are the primary caregiver and hold those responsibilities when they're taken into custody. She's not a woman in isolation, and that was one of the very twists for me. I worked 10 years working with young offenders, male and adult males, and then to switch to women is to realize a woman does not come into prison in isolation. A woman is relational. She comes into prison as part of a community, and she's left that community behind when she comes into prison, and that community is her children. So who are these moms? I don't want to paint a picture for all the moms in prison, but there are some statistics that will bear over the majority of women that are in prison. Approximately 50% of those who are provincial, now provincial means women who are doing 2 years less a day, they're in our provincial system, don't have a high school diploma. 50% don't have a high school diploma. Now if I went into the federal system, which is people doing 2 years and over, that jumps up to 79% of the women in prison. And yet, if I took a survey of women in Canada, 15% only don't have a high school education. So think about women in prison, uneducated, with children. Approximately 72% of the women in custody were unemployed at the time they came to prison. Women who are in prison have higher levels of difficulty in terms of behavioral and emotional stability, poor family relations. Do you know 1/4 of the women in prison have a serious mental health issue? I'm not talking about being depressed because they're in prison. I'm talking serious mental health issue. 1 in 4. And I'm not bringing up new stats because if you go in community, it's 1 in 4 too, just so you know. The prison is simply a microcosm of what's happening in communities. So if we just took a survey of the churches represent what's happening inside our prisons. So you think of all the combination of factors that I mentioned so far, and then you add to that 80 to 90% of them have been physically or sexually abused. They lived in poverty at the time of the offense, and more often than not, they grew up in poverty. And they can count on this merry-go-round of government on release. So the first thing a woman wants to do who's a mom is to get her children back. So she comes in community. And the agency in community says to that woman, do you know, if you'd like your children back, you need a home. And not only do you need a home, you need a home that has a bedroom for each one of the children if they're different sexes. And they walk out and they say, well, if you give me my children, then I will be able to get some mother's allowance for that, and I'll be able to find and be able to rent the property you want me to. No, you have to find the property first. Then you'll get your children back. They say, well, wait a minute, I'm coming out of prison with nothing. I have nothing when I walk out the door. I don't have a job. I don't have a home. I have nothing. But I want my children back. And women can wait months and years before they get their children back up into their family again. In Canada, just so you also know, any child welfare agency in Canada has the right to take your child if you abandon your child for 6 months. Abandonment is defined as failing to maintain regular visitation with a child for a period of at least 6 months. I want you to know, no federally sentenced woman is going to do under 6 months. That is just not going to happen. So every single woman who comes into federal custody is at risk that they will lose their children. Because unless they have a family member who watches them, or unless they have an agency that's willing to bring their child into prison so they can visit with them, they will all be charged with abandonment. Aboriginal women are 38% of our prison population, and yet they're only 3% of the Canadian population. There's a lot of things we can look about when we're thinking about women and mothers in prison and aspects for them. Did these women make wrong choices? Absolutely. Should they be held responsible for their choices? Absolutely. But there are many ways to hold somebody responsible, and the effects of our current incarceration are much more critical to our mothers than they are to our fathers in custody. And they put much more punishment on the table for women when it comes to risk of losing their children than it does for fathers. I can walk in a prison of males, and on visiting day, it will be full. All of those mothers, wives, partners, would bring in the children in. I can go into a Grand Valley institution for women on a visiting day, and the visiting area be empty. Because their children are now being cared for, hopefully, a family member, if not Children's Aid Society. So I would like to share one story about one of our moms. One of the difficulties I had as working with women is that women, because we're relational, we connect so much with women. When I first started at Grand Valley, I found it terrible to leave at night. It's so hard to leave at night. I couldn't leave at night. So I had this little angel that was like, put it on top of a Christmas tree. You know, it lights up, you put it on. I would keep it in my window. And when I left at night, I would turn the angel off. I never told that to anybody before. I don't know why I never told that before. And I would come back the next morning and unplug the angel. Because I thought, I can't leave them. because the pain is so bad. So this is one of those painful stories for me. A woman who had to say goodbye to her child. It was the day she was to say goodbye. I was to record it on video. I could only imagine the emotions of a child trying to comprehend the last visit with their mother. I could only imagine the questions, the misunderstandings, the anger. But I was simply recording a few precious moments in time that would be absolutely priceless by tonight. Simply recording this entangled and puzzling encounter to comfort a mother, to watch a grandmother cry, and to give some sense of reason to a 16-month-old toddler somewhere down in her future after she was adopted. It was almost Christmas, and the private family visiting unit was decorated. Christmas music playing, a small tree, hand-decorated by women who were fortunate enough to be part of a recent craft event, and lots of presents on the coffee table. There were balloons, and of course a full agenda. The mom was a child in many respects. She had grown up in the foster care system, a victim of abuse, as is too common to want to digest. But, like many foster care kids, a survivor. She was uneducated in basic interpersonal skills, but imaginative, creative, and talented. We had been planning a goodbye, a final goodbye, a goodbye that would last as long as this little one could remain engaged. This toddler had all this unknown power in her small frame, a goodbye that would last a lifetime. I wanted everything to be all that the mother wanted it to be, and she wanted it to be full of a lifetime of memories. A lifetime of memories put into a jar of 2 hours was an impossible task. But she didn't see it as impossible because nothing was impossible. Nothing is final. Nothing comes to an end when all you have is hope. There were several changes of clothing. She wanted to have pictures of her children in several different outfits, not just one memory and one dress. There was music, dancing, opening of gifts, a handprint in clay, a walk on paper with paint on her feet, a quick lay down on the bed, a walk outside, feeding time, diaper change, a quick bath, blowing bubbles and making goodbye kisses. There were toddler-tired tears, grunts of filling the diaper, cries when she realized there was paint on her hand that was bright blue, excitement at the balloons, contentment as she rested on her bed with her bottle beside her mother, laughter at the sounds that came from her mother as her mother tapped her lips and a woo-woo sound filtered out. It was full. The mother could not have done anything more in the window of 2 hours. I told Linda I'd have trouble getting through this. I'm going to make it. It was only a memory on tape, a picture on a CD. But it was a mother's lifetime of mothering, caught in a few moments, precious, sacred moments. And I think part of the reason I'm crying, I don't normally cry when I present, is because I know the next part of her story. And she left prison, and she got in a relationship, and she had another child, and she was doing well with that child. But she found out she was pregnant again with twins, and she knew she couldn't handle it. And she had an abortion. And then she called me up in guilt and shame. And she said I couldn't keep them. And I'm dealing with the guilt that I killed them. And she started using drugs again. She lost her second child. She's in prison as of just a few weeks ago again. Such a journey, such a sacred journey that women have to travel. And I'm privileged to have been able to walk alongside that journey for 17 years. So today you have the privilege of hearing another sacred story, and that's the sacred story of Stephanie. And as Stephanie comes up, I want to read a quote by Elizabeth Fry, and maybe you've heard of Elizabeth Fry Society. Elizabeth Fry Society, again, strong woman, came into the prisons to help women in prisons. She lived from 1780 to 1845, and today there are ephraim all over the world. She wrote this: "When thee builds a prison, thee had better build with a thought ever in thy mind, that thee and thy children may occupy the cells."
Good morning, I'm Stephanie Hewinson, and I'm going to share a little bit of my story with you. So, when we think of Mother's Day, it could be a day of rejoicing or a day of pain. This could be because of the loss of a parent due to death, a strained relationship, or incarceration. So now I'm going to get into my story of growing up and how I landed myself in Grand Valley Institute for Women and how I became involved with New Life Prison Ministries. I was born in Dunnville, Ontario. I was born to Jack and Judy Wilson. And growing up, my father liked to drink. He made that his daily life. Even though he had a job and he still sustained work and went to work every day, that was important to him. My mother, she was a great mother, was very content with us children and just happy to be with us. She worked at Webasto making towels, and she worked with my grandmother. On February 3rd, 1978, my mother, a week before that, had left my father and moved home with my grandparents. On that day, my mother had left work to go for lunch, and while she was out for lunch, she was at a stop sign. My father proceeded to take her out of the vehicle and beat her. My mother was with a friend at that time, and the friend had helped her and said, "Let's go to the police station, we really need to get it so that this man cannot come here anymore." So while she's attending the police station to make a report, my father was at my grandparents' house picking us children up. While he's there, my grandma said, "Would you like some clothes for them?" He's like, "No, they don't need any clothes where they're going." He then put us in the vehicle and drove us to our family home. Not too long after arriving there, my mother arrived there, and they started to argue in the kitchen. As they're arguing, my mother slowly opens up the back door and starts to run. I was only 3 years old and my brother was 18 months, and he had a little snowsuit on, a little brown snowsuit, and I noticed my mom run out the back, and I noticed my dad go into the drawer and grab a knife. So as I'm looking out the window, I notice my mom's trying to climb over a fence while my dad's brutally stabbing her. I then take my little brother to the stairs and just push him down, and I dragged him up the stairs by the hood and hid under our bed. While we're hiding under this bed, I hear my father yelling for us, "Stephanie, Jason, Daddy needs you." My brother was hysterically crying, and my father knew where we were. So he slowly dragged us out from under the bed, took us into his room, loaded his shotgun, and took us all away from home. From this day on, we went to live with my maternal grandparents. We still stayed in Dunnville, even though against my grandmother's best wishes, she really wanted to move. During this time, as growing up to be a teenager, I became rebellious, I became a bully. I always wanted to hurt people before they would hurt me. I had a really big anger issue. So I got myself into trouble, fighting, and really having issues making friends too, because I always thought that friends were just going to hurt me and I didn't need any. So I just kind of had the odd one or two friends. So during this time, when I got older, I got into abusive relationships. I had my first son at 21, and I can't say that that was a relationship that was abusive. It was actually an okay relationship. Then I ended up getting involved with an Aboriginal man who was addicted to drugs and liked to drink. I ended up having my daughter, and her name is Brittany. And that relationship was very abusive and very toxic. So eventually I ended up taking my daughter and going to a shelter and finding a new place to live at this time so I could get away from him. So being a single mom, I moved out into my own apartment in a one-bedroom with my daughter, and I met an Italian man from Hamilton. And our relationship was great and everything at the beginning, and then as soon as I got married to him, the beatings came. I remember one time just sleeping in my bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he came home and decided that he would wrap his belt around my neck and throw me out of bed and pull me out of bed because he thought that I needed to make his friends and him some supper. As those days went on, I believed in God. I didn't have the greatest relationship with him, but I believed in him. And I would sit there and pray and say, you know what, God, please change this man. He's not a bad man, but I need to be in this relationship. I love him. I want to stay with him. He's not bad. This is the relationship that I want. Well, I don't know if God was answering my prayers or not, but in April of 2000, while doing laundry with my daughter downstairs, a SWAT team pulls up in front of my house, storms my house, and arrests my husband. And my husband then was arrested and charged with murder and attempted murder, and was sentenced to 25 years life. I thought my life was crashing around behind me, beside me, because I thought that things were going to go great, and I thought that my relationship with him was wonderful. But there were so many secrets in this relationship that I praise God every day for getting out alive. After that relationship, I just kind of stayed single and did my own thing. And then in 2001, I met my husband, who is here with me today. My husband was brought up Christadelphian, so he was always had God in his life. But unfortunately, due to circumstances, he left that church, and we kind of just didn't have a home church, or my faith kind of drifted away. We got married, we had a son, his name's Hayden, and our life was great. I was a director for a group home with children with behavior issues. My husband had a great job, life was going good. And then in November 14, 2006, I just got my kids off to school. And there's a knock on the door. I answered it, and it was two detectives advising me that my one and only brother, Jason, had taken his own life. Again, this relationship that I had built with God diminished in the matter of seconds. I had no relationship with God after that. I hated God. I wanted nothing to do with him. My relationship with my husband became strained because he loved God and had this great relationship with him, and I thought, how can you love this guy, or love this God that you talk about so much? Because he's done nothing but cause me pain my whole entire life. He doesn't want me to be happy. So, after my brother had committed the suicide, we had gone to the government of Canada to ask them if we would be able to get any funding for my brother to be buried. During this time, they were telling me, well, you're really not going to be able to pick where you want him to be buried, and that's going to be up to us, and you're probably lucky if you know where he's going to be buried. So driving home, I'm talking to my husband on the phone, and I'm crying, and I'm saying, I don't know what I'm going to do. I want Jason to be with my grandparents. I want him to be with my mom, because they were all buried in the same plot. And my husband said, don't worry. I have money saved. We'll use that money to pay for your brother's funeral. So, my husband ended up using the savings he had to pay for my brother's funeral. And then in June of 2007, my husband had a heart attack. So, I'm the only one working, and he's off. And bills are piling up, so I go to our bank that we've been at for a long, long time, and I ask for a line of credit or a mortgage on our home. And at first, when I called them the day before, the lady was so, oh yes, we can help you, don't worry, just come, we'll do the paperwork. The day I get there, she says, no, we can't help you. We need your husband's income, and now that he's off sick, we can't help you. So, one of my friends that I grew up with was attending school, and she was doing a law program, so she gave me a CD. I made up my own documents, took them to the bank, and fraudulently got the money myself. I knew eventually I would get caught. I didn't know when. My anxiety and my relationship with my husband again was strained because I was keeping the secret from him. Like, he knew we had money, but he didn't know where it was coming from. I think he assumed that I was working harder than I really was. And eventually, I got arrested. October 27, 2011, I was arrested, and on March 28th, 2012, I was sentenced to 2 years, 9 months at Grand Valley Institute for Women. So while being at my hopes was that I was going to be able to go home and be with my family, but unfortunately, I went to Grand Valley Institute for Women, didn't know what to expect, didn't know what people were going to be like, but fortunately for me, I moved into a home where there was a lot of women who believed in God and loved to go to church and loved to read the Bible. So while I was there, I started doing midlife prison ministry Bible studies, and while I was doing a Bible study one day, I always thought that God gave up on me, and that's why I was going through the problems that I went through, because he just gave up on me. He just thought I was useless and there was no hope for me. But while doing these Bible studies, I realized that he never gave up on me. I was the one that gave up on him, and that no matter what I did, he forgave me. So I remember doing these Bible studies, and I remember just being by myself in a room, because in Grand Valley Institute for Women, you have a bedroom, and him saying to me, you thought that I gave up on you? I never gave up on you. I saved you. I saved you the day that your father came and picked you up from your grandparents, because that day you were supposed to die. I saved you in that relationship with that man when you took all those beatings, because eventually you were going to die. I saved you by putting you in prison, because eventually you were going to go down the road and you would never come back from that. So, my life has been different since then. So now I'm going to get into a little bit of the Mother's Day part of a mom being in prison and the things that I had to go through with my children. So like I said, on October 27, 2011, I sent my daughter Brighton, who was 13 then, and my son Hayden, who was 8, off to school. My children never saw me again until June 2012 at Grand Valley Institute for Women. I was devastated about leaving my children. I had never been away from them for more than a night. My heart was breaking. I cannot express how many tears I shed during those years. My guilt was overwhelming. I remember my first conversation with my daughter and the anger she felt. She was crying and yelling and kept saying, I just want you home. I don't care about anything else. Just come home. I then had to explain to them that I did some bad things and had to pay the consequences. My daughter's response was, well, then so do you. I called every day and wrote letters of apologies, but being separated from my children was like a big part of me was lost. As a mother, we're supposed to be able to love, nourish, protect, teach, comfort, guide, nurture, support, embrace, cherish, and reassure our children. As a mother in prison, it is difficult to offer some of these emotions to your children. For myself, it was to protect them, comfort, embrace, and reassure them. I couldn't protect my children from everyday society or certain fears that they struggled with. When they were upset or feeling down, I wasn't there to comfort them. Embrace was a big one for me. I couldn't hug them or hold their hand, and I wasn't able to reassure them that everything was going to be okay and that I was going to be home soon. Phone conversations with my children were either very emotional or non-existent. My daughter was never home, or she was just very angry. My son really didn't like talking to me because he became too emotional. And just as hard as it was for me as a mother not to speak to my children, it was also very hard on them. My daughter turned to using marijuana to cover up her feelings. She got in an abusive relationship. She became very violent and was lashing out. Her relationship with her stepfather became very strained, and my relationship with my daughter became very strained. She felt abandoned, lost, and most of all, she felt unloved. My son turned to eating as his escape. He became very anxious and withdrawn. He had problems being at school and would have to call my husband probably on an hourly basis to make sure that he was home and that he was okay. He became very emotional at school and would sometimes act out so that he could come home to be with my husband. My son most of all felt abandoned. I then realized that children deal with things differently. So on Mother's Day at Grand Valley Institute, the ladies in our house, we would get together and make a dinner and have support with each other. But it wasn't the same, because you never felt the love that you would from your children. So some of us women would go into a room and pray that God would get us through this day, or we would discuss that we were going to do what we were going to do the next Mother's Day, that we got to hold our children and be with them. I was released January 2014. My daughter Brighton was just turning 16, and my son Hayden was 11. I had to build a new relationship, and get to know them all over again. This was very difficult. My daughter was withdrawn, needy, and thought I owed her. She was both physically and emotionally abusive. She not only was smoking weed, but also drinking. My son was overweight because he was always eating for comfort, but he was still loving and kind. And he was so happy to have his mom home that material things didn't matter. He just wanted me all the time. So school again was still very difficult for him because he always wanted to be with me, and he always wanted to make sure that I wasn't leaving. Hayden was also scared that I wouldn't be home again when he got home from school. As a mother, I had to get back into the routine of things. I had a lot of emotions and physical changes to deal with. My daughter was now turning into a woman with a bad attitude, and she was rebellious, and nothing I said mattered to her. My biggest difficulty with her was she would love to bring up my cry and guilt me into buying her things. And I would buy them because I thought that I needed to make up for the missed time. This became very overwhelming, and at times I thought, this isn't the girl that I left. When I was doing the fraud, I never realized the consequences would also affect my children. I wasn't really thinking about anyone, just keeping my life the way that it was. I thought it was keeping my family together, and I think I thought I would never get caught. I never realized that I had victims, but I did, and those victims were my children. As time went on, things for my son got better. He is now doing well in school, his anxiety is under control,